President Trump, Carney began, I am speaking directly to you. Not to your staff, not to your advisors, not to the American people, although they are listening, to you. I want you to understand something that you have apparently failed to grasp over the past 7 weeks. This crisis, all of it, every single aspect of the damage that has been done to your country, to the global economy, to the Western alliance, to American credibility, this is your fault. Not Canada's fault, not Congress's fault, not your advisors' fault, your fault. You created this.
Did you hear that? The source video you just watched claims Mark Carney looked straight at Donald Trump and said, "This is your fault." Now here is the key point. The anger in that clip fits a real story. Trump and Carney really have been in a public fight over tariffs, sovereignty, and America's treatment of Canada. But some of the biggest claims in this viral transcript are not independently confirmed by major public reporting I reviewed. That matters because we do not need fake drama. The real facts are already explosive. Carney has publicly said Canada's sovereignty must be respected. He has openly pushed back on Trump's tariff threats, and Reuters, PBS, and official Canadian sources all show a relationship under major strain. So by the end of this video, I am going to show you what is verified, what is not, and why the real truth is still devastating for Trump.
Take responsibility. So I am going to make this as clear as possible for you and for everyone watching. This is your fault. You did this, and you need to fix it now. For 23 minutes, Carney methodically listed every major action Trump took that worsened the crisis, every opportunity Trump had to resolve it peacefully, every instance over the past 15 days where Trump obstructed implementation of the agreement his own vice president and Congress accepted, and every consequence Americans are suffering because of Trump's continued resistance. The address was part indictment, part history lesson, and part direct challenge. And it was watched live by an estimated.
Here is what they are not telling you. The source video may be dramatic, but the broader tariff conflict is real. Reuters reported that Carney warned the old U.S.-Canada economic relationship was breaking down. Reuters also reported that Carney said nothing was off the table in defending Canada from Trump's tariffs. That is not small talk. That is a close ally telling the world America is no longer acting like a reliable partner. This is important because the transcript you gave me goes much further. It talks about illegal tariffs, troop moves, frozen investments, and massive congressional showdowns. I could not verify those specific claims in major public reporting, so we should not repeat them as fact, but we can say this with confidence. Trump's tariff politics really did trigger retaliation, deepen distrust, and push Canada to talk more openly about sovereignty and economic independence. What this actually means for you is simple. When a U.S. president treats allies like enemies, regular Americans pay the price. Supply chains get hit, prices rise, markets shake, and America looks weaker, not stronger. That is the part the right-wing propaganda machine never wants to admit. They sell chaos as strength, but chaos is still chaos. And Carney's real public posture backs that up. He said Canada would only engage if its sovereignty was respected. He said the United States was no longer a reliable partner. That is not anti-American. That is a direct response to Trump's behavior. And frankly, every American should be furious that a president could damage trust with one of our closest allies this badly. Look at this. This is why the viral transcript caught fire. Because even without the unverified parts, the real reporting is already brutal. Reuters documented Carney warning that the United States was no longer a reliable partner. That is a stunning thing for Canada to say. This is not some fringe blog. This is one of the world's most trusted wire services. So when viewers hear a narrator say Carney finally dropped the gloves, it lands because Trump really did push this alliance to the edge.
Of agreements and through a refusal to accept basic principles of sovereignty and respect. And now, even after your vice president accepted Canada's requirements on March 12th, even after Congress mandated compliance 3 separate times, you are still obstructing implementation, still creating delays, still refusing to take responsibility. So I am going to make this as clear as possible for you and for everyone watching. This is your fault. You did this, and you need to fix it now. For 23 minutes, Carney methodically listed every major action Trump took that worsened the crisis, every opportunity Trump had to resolve it peacefully, every instance over the past 15 days where Trump obstructed implementation of the agreement his own vice president and Congress accepted, and every consequence Americans are suffering because of Trump's continued resistance. The address was part indictment, part history.
Thing for Canada to say, this is not some fringe blog. This is one of the world's most trusted wire services. So when viewers hear a narrator say Carney finally dropped the gloves, it lands because Trump really did push this alliance to the edge. Now, this is where I need to be blunt. The exact numbers in that clip were not confirmed in the public sources I reviewed, so we should not present those figures as fact, but the underlying warning is still absolutely credible. Trade wars hurt working people first. They hurt retirees. They hurt people living on fixed incomes. They hurt small businesses that cannot absorb another shock. I believe this is one of Trumpism's biggest lies. It markets economic aggression as patriotic toughness. But when tariffs are used recklessly, families do not feel strength. They feel higher costs. They feel uncertainty. They feel the ground moving under their feet. That is exactly why Canada's response matters. It is a mirror. It shows Americans what happens when chaos becomes policy. And here is the bigger picture. PBS and NPR reporting both show Carney framing this as a fight over coercion and sovereignty. He has argued that major powers now use tariffs as leverage and trade as a weapon. If that sounds familiar, it should. That is the Trump playbook: intimidate, escalate, then call the fallout leverage. This is outrageous because America should never be the country that bullies out. Here is the official Canadian readout, and notice the gap. The public record says Carney and Trump discussed the economy, the Middle East, and trade relations, and agreed to stay in contact. That is a long way from the viral transcript's claim of a dramatic late-night ultimatum. This is exactly why fact checking matters. We can acknowledge the real conflict without swallowing every sensational line in a YouTube monologue. In fact, the truth is more useful than the hype. The real record shows a relationship under stress, a prime minister defending sovereignty, and a U.S. president whose tariff politics keep poisoning trust with allies.
You to accept Canada's 5 requirements. You refused to implement that legislation. On March 12th, Congress overrode your veto a second time. You still refused. On March 12th, your own vice president, acting with congressional authorization, accepted Canada's requirements on behalf of the United States. That should have been the end, but you continued to resist. For the past 15 days, since March 12th, you have systematically obstructed implementation.
So what did we learn here? First, the source video you brought me uses a lot of dramatic claims that I could not independently verify. That matters. We should not let outrage outrun evidence. Second, the verified public record is still deeply alarming. Carney is really Canada's prime minister. Trump and Carney really have clashed over tariffs and sovereignty. And credible reporting really shows Canada questioning whether the United States is still a reliable partner. That should shake every American, not because we owe blind loyalty to any foreign leader. We do not, but because democracy depends on trust, stability, and reality. When a president will lose security, and authoritarians everywhere learn a dangerous lesson. My opinion is simple. Progressive Americans should stop waiting for mainstream media to explain why this matters. A trade war with Canada is not just another cable news food fight. It is a warning sign. It tells you how Trump governs. He creates a crisis. He calls the damage strength. Then everyone else is forced to clean up the mess. This is not just about one speech. It is about whether the United States will be a country that honors alliances, respects truth, and values democracy over ego. And right now, your voice matters. Demand facts, reject propaganda, and do not let anybody tell you this level of recklessness is normal.
Not in Ottawa. Canada is ready to restore partnership. We are waiting for the United States to be ready. Carney paused, looked directly into the camera one final time and said, "President Trump, this is your fault. You have 5 days to fix it. Stop obstructing, allow implementation, end this crisis, or accept responsibility for what happens when Canada resumes emergency measures on April 2nd. He walked away from the podium. The camera held on the empty podium for 10 seconds before networks cut away.
If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is just getting started and I cover it every single day. Don't miss what's coming next.